everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cup Duet Reviews. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am the Associate Artistic Producer here at Cup of Hemlock Theatre. And today, do I have a golden ticket to be joined by the wonderful Mackenzie Harner, one of our co-artistic producers. Hello, Mackenzie. You've got lots of energy with us today, Mac. How are you doing?
I am doing scrumdiddlyumptious today, Jill.
Oh, amazing. How many chocolate bar sort of quips are we going to drop in this episode?
I think we got to go for, a solid, a king size pack of chocolate bars there, Jill.
A Wonka size for sure. Yes. Okay, I think the cat's out of the bag, folks. Today, Mac and I have the wonderful honor to unpack and discuss Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that is happening right now at Young People's Theatre on the Ada Slate stage. It is running until December 30th, and it is directed by Thom Allison, starring some fantastic musical theater performers. But before we get too far into the factory doors, we're going to do what we do every time we do our cup episodes. Mac, what is in your cup today, and any ensemble you want to talk about?
Well, Jill, I am been talking all day at work, as well as I feel something going on in the cold season, so I'm on cold meds to be on the safe side. But I'm drinking a cup of tea from the Cup.
Nice.
As well as I have my classic Crystal Light. So I
nice.
Lots of liquids, and my shirt is not particularly themed to the show, but the Oompa Loompas did have a lot of polka dots, and my shirt is polka dot checkered theme, just like Mr. Wonka there. So
I love that.
Yes,
I do have a special beverage today, and I feel like I'm wearing a golden t-shirt. I got a golden t-shirt. Sorry, I had to do that.
Love it.
So I got my golden t-shirt. I wore my little maroon earrings for work today, and they kind of look like little chocolate squares, so we'll go with that. And then I've got a heaping, one might say, like a waterfall-esque portion of some chocolate almond milk. So I thought I would drink that, get some extra protein in there today.
Very good.
So everything's kind of themed for our episode today. So again, we are discussing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Young People's Theatre. It's happening on the Ada Slate stage until December 30th. It is their sort of holiday spectacular performance. So Mac, what did you think of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Let's give our general appraisals here.
Well, first, Jill, I have a question for you.
Please.
Which version of Willy Wonka did you grow up with? Was it the Johnny Depp or Gene Wilder version?
Okay, so I had both. So as a little kid, I spent a lot of time with my nanny and grandpa, which are my mom's parents. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would go to their house, and we watched the original Willy Wonka a lot. And honestly, I know Gene Wilder's performance of Willy kind of gives people the spooky scaries.
It's supposed to. He's supposed to be unnerving.
But I will say, his sort of the verve he brought to the character was probably a creepy sort of intro into the performance industry for me. I was like, oh, this guy's being creepy, but also magical in the same breath. That's kind of cool. So as a little tot, I definitely was exposed to the OG one. Then I remember vividly, it's kind of all coming back to me right now, with the Johnny Depp version.
Yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, exactly. I received I don't know if they were, I can't remember if they were playing cards or a memory match or some sort of game from a McDonald's or somewhere. I don't remember where I got it. But it had it was almost, it was trading cards. And
gotcha.
So I saw the movie in the theaters, which was riveting. And then I had these playing cards. So as a kid, I used to make magic markers. I used to pretend they were all characters. So when I had these playing cards, I played Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I pretended that I was each character. It was very imagination with a capital.
Love it.
So I would say both of them did impact me in some shape or form.
Yes.
But what about you, Mac? What's your Willy Wonka?
Well, I grew up with the VHS of the Gene Wilder version. I had that I watched growing up. And then my dad took my sisters and I to see the Johnny Depp version. And that's not one I've gone back to as much. The Gene Wilder one has been the one that's been much more ingrained in my memory.
Yeah.
And so watching the stage show, which then gets me to your question, which is my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
This was a musical I didn't realize had gone through so many changes.
Yeah.
Just going through the track list from the West End to Broadway to the touring version, it's gone through like waves of rewrites and changes, and it's fascinating. So I really want to dive more into this show. But the Gene Wilder film was so ingrained that watching it, there was parts of me that were like, oh, but that's not like the movie.
Right.
Oh, that's too bad. They cut the Chocolate Riverboat sequence, or oh wow, they didn't include Veruca's song from the movie. I Want It Now, which is so good. Which I'm like, I wish that had been in the stage show because it's such an iconic moment. But at the same time, I was like, oh, but this is the stage show, and they're doing a really good job with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And Michael, who plays Willy Wonka, does a very good interpretation of Willy Wonka, where he's a bit like Gene Wilder, but not on the nose. But you clearly can see there's a bit of Gene Wilder energy in that character, just in his ways. He has his manic outbursts, is kind of scratch that, reverse it, like just kind of that chaotic ball of energy that goes into him. You can sense some Gene Wilder isms in there, but not carbon copying. It's still Michael's interpretation, but clearly there is some lineage of Gene Wilder in the bloodline of this character. Which was great.
I also think to add to, which we're kind of forgetting, the most recent Willy Wonka that would be on the children's palettes coming to see this would be Timothée Chalamet's, which I haven't had a chance to see that new version.
It wasn't bad. It was fine.
But I also feel like Michael Turo's performance too had a bit of Timothy's swagger too. I feel like he did a really good job of paying homage to like all of the Wonkas that
except for Johnny Depp
on the screen.
Johnny Depp.
That's true. Johnny. I mean, I don't think anyone can really endow Johnny's energy. He's got his own shtick going.
His concept for the character wasn't a bad interpretation of the character. I will say, it's just his execution of what he was trying to go for didn't quite work. Anyway, this is not a film review.
Yes, exactly.
This is about the stage. So I thought the production was terrific. I thought Thom Allison directed a terrific, fun family musical production. I will say that we will get into in spoilers. I have bigger problems with the actual book itself of the show compared to the production. I think the production did well with what it was given. I think the source material that they're working with leaves a bit wanting, and that's something that's been a continual thing throughout this musical's history, is people saying it's okay, but it doesn't quite hit the mark of what could be in this production. I mean, the cast is stellar. It has solid production design to it. They do a lot of great projections in there. They do some really funny squirrel ballet, and so. I mean, I'll just say overall, if you're looking for a fun family show, I mean, last year, Jill, you and I went and saw Christmases, and that was cute and fun, and I think this is a solid alternative to that one, which actually Christmases just announced they're getting a cast recording. So
yes, they are.
Yay to them for that. But this is another fun family musical for the holidays. That is
definitely
one that pays homage to some of the darker elements, but isn't as dark as the 1970s Gene Wilder, but still has the heart and kind of the overall message of what that film was trying to imbue to people about dreamers and people who work hard and how they achieve their goals. So yeah. Jill, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Mac, and what a treat to sort of go to the theater at this time of year and be engulfed in the world of imagination. I thought, like you said, the whole design, like from set to costuming to choreography, I thought is super effervescent. And you could tell every child sitting in the audience was gobsmacked by what they were watching and seeing. Cast extremely talented and took on their characters with such pizzazz and personality that you could tell was very them, but like we've mentioned too, like paying homage to those that have worn these characters in the past too, which I think is really great. Like as fellow performer, I'm like, you should always make a role yours and resonate in it, but it's always
Mm-hmm.
nice to kind of like cheekily nod your head to those who've played in the past. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
that happened kind of across the board. I love Tom's sort of like Torontonian take on the piece as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like,
Yeah.
we can get into that more post spoilers, but there definitely
Yes.
was a dose of Toronto dipped in chocolate, if you may.
Yep.
And
Very
so,
Laura
yeah,
Secord.
yeah, like all of this coming together. Again, we'll get into it more post spoilers as well, but definitely the color. I think this musical needs to pop from like a
Mm-hmm.
design perspective. And I thought that definitely hit the mark
Mm-hmm.
there. And Mac and I attended opening night, and it was like a sold out house, and anywhere from tiny tots maybe experiencing their first show to seasoned actors to producers to old hats. Like there was it really is a family filled show, and there was all ages there. And like you said, Mac, the messages that come with this musical of like working hard and striving for your
Mm-hmm.
dreams, and finding what does the elevator mean to you, and how do you kind of take on the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that all came through. Magic. Again, I think once again, YPT's done a really, really good job. We've had the honor of talking about several of their shows on the Cup over this last year and a half, and they are really like sinking their teeth into all of these pieces and making them come alive for our younger community. But like I said, for all ages. So
Yes.
tipping my Wonka hat to Thom Allison and YPT once again.
Yes.
Yeah, I think now we can open the factory door unless you want to.
No, I was just going to say, before we go into the spoiler realm, this show is running from November 12th to December the 30th. So lots of time to go on out and see it. The link for the tickets will be in the description below. So go on out and check that out. But Jill, I think we are ready to rip open our chocolate bars and find our golden spoiler ticket.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, the ticket's there. Can we just talk about, I need to just talk about the moment that Charlie does get the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting cue on that was astonishing. Like
Yes.
the fact that there was just that warm, like yellow glow that almost like felt like it started from the tips of Charlie's toes all the way up to the top of his noggin. I was like, oh, that was magic. There was a lot of theater magic popped in this.
Lots. I love that moment. However, this is one of my problems with the show.
Okay, get into it. Let's get into it.
Not saying that the actor who played Charlie, who was
Breton Lalama.
Thank you, Breton. Yes, he was wonderful. I still cannot figure out how old he is because he did such a good job of playing young Charlie wonderfully. But the book. So this is something where, how do I put this? What makes the original book and film special is that Charlie is ordinary. It's just luck of the draw that he gets a golden ticket. There is no magic, or not magic. There's no Willy Wonka rigging the system to get Charlie into the factory. It's just, once again, it shows the ordinary person when given the right chance in life, which doesn't always come around, because Charlie doesn't always get the golden ticket. There's a lot of fake outs. Where like he may not get it. And so the fact that in this particular adaptation, they've taken that element of the story away and made it so Willy Wonka is actively manipulating the system or the game or whatever you want to call it to get Charlie into the factory, but then also so he wins in the end. Or sorry, scratch that, reverse it. So Willy Wonka gets Charlie into the factory through manipulation. It then puts into question the rest of the story, because then is Willy Wonka actively setting these other children up to fail by putting these obstacles in their way that he knows will trigger a response, kind of like Augustus Gloop getting stuck in the chocolate river, or Violet, or it's Violet who has the chewing gum. Or Mike TV with the TVs. Like, is he actively setting them up to fail to knock them out of the way just so Charlie can win? Versus in the movie where it's anybody's game. in this factory. All these people have an equal opportunity to win. It's just Charlie is the one that is a good and virtuous person deep down. Just like, it almost be like Peter Parker having the DNA within him to make it so he will always be Spider-Man. What makes Peter Parker a special superhero is that he was an ordinary teenage boy who went to a lab and got bit by a spider. And because he had good intentions, just like Captain America, Steve Rogers was an ordinary man. He wasn't someone who was predestined to, become Captain America. He was just given the opportunity to become Captain America, and his own internal virtues allowed him to succeed to the next level. So the book itself, I think, did a disservice to the character of Charlie and his story of he is a good person who has good ideas, who is creative, who is kind, who is humble, who doesn't need Willy Wonka to manipulate the system to have him win.
Yeah.
So that's something where I was watching, I went, oh, you've kind of taken some of the power of the story away in your adaptation. I'm not saying Thom Allison wrote it that way. The people who wrote the show, that's what I mean by the source material was a bit lacking in that sense.
Sure.
But there were other things like the reinterpretation of the other kids. Was fun, like making Veruca like a Russian character, or the whole concept of Mike TV being like an ADHD violent child was like that all worked. It was just the core choice to make Willy Wonka an active manipulator in the story kind of did a disservice. I don't know, Jill, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. I think to pick up what you're putting down, I agree with that adaptation, but what you're kind of saying too, like I feel like what this team did with each new sort of iteration of these characters and moments like really popped. Like it almost like I feel like at this point, everyone knows some sort of version of this story. Yes. And what I like with this adaptation is I feel like it really, each character gets their spotlight, if you will. And this production really used every facet of the capital S stage to show us Mike, to show us Veruca, to show us, Charlie's lifestyle too. Like, and I think with this production in particular, and with the whole creative team, using projections on the site paired with the like wonderful, creatively colored set pieces that kind of slide in and out, paired with the astonishing costumes donning every character's backs. We talked about the Oompa Loompas in this they're like pink and purple polka dotted people is actually what I think Mike TV's mom talks about. And they have, like almost like Sia
the
hair
bowl cut,
and it's almost like, so there was a really lovely sort of contemporary flair. And like I said, Thom Allison does obviously set it in Toronto because we are constantly shown the CN Tower as sort of a like virtual set piece behind when we have the outdoor scenes. So I think, again, as like a young Toronto kid watching this story that they probably have already read, right? Because Roald Dahl, a lot of Roald Dahl stories kind of are bedtime treats as a kid growing up, and they still are. So like, having read that, having maybe seen the old version, seen the Timothée Chalamet version, what was that, last Christmas or a couple Christmases ago?
It was Wonka last Christmas.
Right. So then to now kind of be able to see it through like your own city's lens, I thought was a really neat sort of Tom's own sort of Wonkified, magic that he added. And I think all of those elements, similar to how we see or introduced to all of the elements in Willy Wonka's factory. Like, I think Thom did a good job of like, I even caught myself because the Ada Slate stage is in the Young People's Theater, which, it's a proscenium style stage, but you look into the audience and around, and it is like a bricked, sort of looks like a factory almost.
Well, once again, that whole area was like little carpety factory areas.
Exactly. So that was kind of neat too, like kind of constantly being placed into like a Toronto lens of this story, and then seeing the theater kind of look like a factory. I was, again, I thought it just kind of really put a local flair to this piece.
Fair.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite numbers, Mac? Any music numbers or bits you want to pay homage to.
Sure. Well, I mean, the ones from the film are great. I mean, Pure Imagination will always never fail to make me tear up. That is such a gorgeous song. And the message of that song is, timeless. I've Got a Golden Ticket. It's a very humbleable tune. Even though, as I was saying to Jill after the show, there's a whole other podcast I listen to all about Willy Wonka. And the tagline of that episode was a more profane version of "Screw Grandpa Joe," because that's all I can think about with that song now. It's just that line. Because screw Grandpa Joe. The man's like lounging in bed, while like the poor family is like living off rotten cabbage soup. But the song is so great. It's so humble and it's filled with such joy. That song, like you just feel the life come back into that, crotchety or not crotchety, but just lazy old man. That was great.
Yeah.
But I will say my two favorites were More of Him to Love, which is the Mrs. Gloop, Augustus Gloop song.
Yeah.
And that mainly goes out to one of my cast shout outs, which is Jacob McInnes. They were so funny as Mrs. Gloop. Like, again, with their lederhosen and very traditional Bavarian garb. Like, it was just, like, it just epitomized who the Gloops are. The gluttonous characters. They're very funny. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And then also part of that sequence is the other one, When Veruca Says, which is Mr. Salt and Veruca Salt. And Caitlin's interpretation of Veruca is close. Once again, it's close to the film version, which is very iconic with the "I Want It Now" song. Like that version of that character is very iconic. And so Caitlin's reinterpretation still fits that mold, but in a new, fun way. And also the writers just coming up with the idea of making them like a Russian oligarchy family gets me. And then also the fact that dad looks like, a version of Vladimir Putin is like, who's subservient to his daughter. This little wee thing is great. So funny. Yeah. So funny.
Yeah.
It's like those two songs plus, Pure Imagination, I would say were all kind of my big shout outs in the show. What about you, Jill?
I would say literally my songs were exactly yours. So we'll put a pin in it. Well, those songs pop for me too.
Also the Squirrel Ballet. The Squirrel Ballet is very good. Yeah.
That was
Swan Lake Squirrel Ballet.
Again, I thought everyone across the board was really strong in what they brought to their character, but I do want to shout out particularly just some folks that did have doubling that I thought like they executed very well. So one of them, like Zorana Sadiq, apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, but Mrs. Bucket, Cherry Sunday, and an Oompa Loompa. Yes. Zorana played. So first of all, just the polar opposites of Mrs. Bucket and then Cherry Sunday, our newscaster.
Yeah. Cherry Sunday is such a great name.
Yeah, such a great name. But, Mrs. Bucket is, I always love Charlie's mom in all of these iterations. She plays a really, core grounding, grounding force. And so I really thought she brought that warmth and that depth that we need to kind of like, it's that she represents the sort of raw reality outside of the factory. But then her like pizzazz for Cherry Sunday, and introducing and the excitement in introducing each golden ticket winner and how she sort of donned her whole costume and when she popped in and out. I think, again, both of her characters sort of served a purpose of like stringing moments or other characters along. And so I think she had that strong in each one, but then to play such opposite energies must have been a lot of fun for her. Like I felt that, I saw that in her. And then I kind of just want to like generally shout out all of our cast that played the child characters. Almost all of them also doubled as an Oompa Loompa.
Yes,
I thought that's an interesting sort of playground moment for an actor because you're playing, every one of these kids are so different. Like that's what kind of makes this story pop, right? Is that Veruca is so different from Violet, is so different from Mike, is so different from Augustus, is so different from Charlie. And like, that's why like every kid can kind of see some element of themselves in this story. And it's timeless that way. But to, don those shoes and like really punch those characters forth, but then to also play an Oompa Loompa, which the Oompa Loompas always fascinate me and bring me because they are these controversial characters. They are. There's these just tendrils that just like show up when they want to and disappear. And then you're not quite sure what they are or why they are there, or
Yeah.
you don't know if they're, magical or mischievous. And so I just think like it would have been, I just would love to like pick their ear if playing that track, right? Of
Yeah.
having the verve of, oh my gosh, I get to go into this factory for the first time and I am this character and this is, a strong personality, versus playing the Oompa Loompas who have been there forever for as far as we know, right? And know every little
Mm-hmm.
facet of the factory. And so what I loved about this production is I think like what Thom and then our choreographer who is Allison Plomadon. Apologies, Allison, if I'm
Yeah.
mispronouncing your last name. But I think between Thom and Allison, sort of, the movement moments that the Oompa Loompas served, again, were kind of like really quirky but also like, just like fun little
Mm-hmm.
garnishes to what was going on. So again, I kind of want to, again, tip my Wonka hat to the performers playing a ensemble track that is absolutely necessary for this role, but kind of elusive and loose as to why they're there or how they're there. And then you have to
Mm-hmm.
go into the shoes of like the iconic characters, and you do need to know your
Yeah.
purpose and why you're there. Anyways, I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but I like
No, it
that
makes total sense.
double.
Yeah, I mean, like the one doubling that threw me in a good way for me was with, where are they here? So I'll make sure I get their name right. And De Groot,
DeGruder
De
or
Grucher. Sorry,
Deanne?
Deanne.
Yeah.
But how different they are between Mrs. Green and Mrs. TV. Because I knew there were doublings throughout the show. I was like, okay, so who else is Mrs. TV playing? And it took me a minute to think back and go, oh, it's Mrs. Green, the vegetable seller.
Yeah.
Because they're just so different in character.
So different. Yeah.
So different and just wonderfully manic in different ways. It's great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Was there a particular set or costume that really stood out to you, Jill?
Yeah. So I loved what the team decided to do with the projections in
Mm-hmm.
regards to like taking us in and out of, especially with the outdoor scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when there was sort of like a tango happening between projection and like a gobo, like a lighting choice.
Mm-hmm.
So like with our chocolate waterfall, or like when the sides of the set sort of like came alive in that first colorful pop when they enter the factory. Like, I thought those moments really hit home for me. It kind of reminded me of like in the original movie, right? When you see sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
Violet turning violet. Like, I feel like
Yes.
every Wonka iteration has to have some sort of newness to the magic being offered. And again, it's through that chocolate waterfall. It's through the sort of growing colorful plants. It's through, again, they used like the costuming in here.
Yes.
Again, I want to shout out Ming Wong was a costume designer. We've seen Ming's work across our stages across Canada, a brilliant costume designer. And for example, like Violet's suit, she's wearing like,
What are those Halloween
contemporary suits? Yeah, but it's just it comes across like, right, like a contemporary sort of from California, wearing just like this baggy velour sweatsuit, and then it actually grew and grew and grew. So it's the little magical sort of theatrical pops that I thought this production did really well. What about you?
The invention room, like that was such a fun set to do, like just the way they did all the prop machines and all the whirring lights. It was like just such a fun set to be in. And I mean the whole show had this great kind of youthful school production design look to it that worked. Like it didn't feel cheap and chintzy where it's like oh, we got no budget so we have to do it this way. This feels like, because this is a show about children entering into this very magical world of the factory, you can be a bit broader, a bit more cartoony, a bit not grounded in reality. of making everything perfect. Like I could just fit.
Yeah.
Like in a way that didn't feel cheap. Where like in
Absolutely.
other hands, the set could have felt very cheap, and kind of just like, oh, they have no money, so they're kind of making the best of what they got, and is
And
this
I
felt
think
good.
Yeah, and I think by like kind of scaling it down and just having it be like certain set pieces that punch the
Yes.
invention room, or like
Yeah. The
punch
TV
the
room.
the TV room, or the chocolate
Yeah.
waterfall were in that
Yeah.
scene. It also allows the whole piece to be super digestible from like
Mhm.
the tiniest of children
Yeah.
to the oldest audience member right? Because it kind of like it sets the scene enough to what we need it to do,
Yeah.
and then the rest is just the story and the songs really making everything come alive. It's
Yeah.
not, because I do think you can over colorify or palette this piece very much so. Like you can go
Oh, yeah.
overboard, and I think it'll tear away from like the core messages we talked about earlier. And I think
Yes.
this did a really happy medium of that. Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
part of the allure of this piece too is you can make it magical to yourself.
Oh,
Right?
100%.
And that's
why
part
this
of it.
is
That's
source material
the
that people
purpose
keep
of
coming
it.
back to.
Yeah.
Like, this is such an imaginative piece. Like, this is one of those great pieces of literature
Mhm.
that I guarantee you, give it another 15 years, we will see another adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, whether that's a Netflix series version where they take the story and break it down into like 30, 40-minute episodes and like
Yeah.
do a 4-part
Or like each
series.
character gets an episode or something. Like each kid
Yeah,
gets an
something like
episode.
that where you can have some
So
fun
we get
with
to know
that.
their
Like,
background. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you could easily do something fun like that there where yeah, like you can really dive in and really expand this source material and just always reinvent how you're interpreting the Chocolate Factory and the Oompa Loompas and just that very visually imaginative world.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I would
Yeah.
just say it's such a fun show. Like I just had such a fun time out watching it. Like I left with a smile on my face and having that I got a golden ticket. So I mean, what more could you
Yeah.
ask for this type of material?
Absolutely. And at this time of year,
Mm.
go out and indulge in the sweet
Yes.
treat that is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
I think we
Yes.
can round it out there,
I
Mac.
think so.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else more you want to shout out, Jill, but I'm okay with us, holding
Yeah.
away
I think
our golden ticket for now, keeping it, to ourselves, and we're gonna go off and,
definitely.
enjoy some more holiday fun.
Yes, because again, folks, you have lots of time to go out and see this.
Yes.
So this is happening until December 30th.
Mm-hmm.
This is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory happening on the Ada Slate stage, Young People's Theater production, directed by Thom Allison. And as Matt said earlier, we will pop the link and any details below so that you can go to the world of imagination.
That's right.
Amazing. On that note, Mac, to round us out fully, where can folks find and follow your imagination?
Oh, well, I mean, I was actually just looking this up, trying to figure out when this musical came out, because it came out in 2013. Oh, there we go. So it is now eligible to be covered on my other podcast, Before the Downbeat It Musical podcast. So maybe flip on over there and you can maybe see us covering that in an upcoming season for sure, because this definitely be a fun show to go back and do some more deep diving into. But yeah, follow all my musical antics over at Before the Downbeat. We have released our 75th episode, which is none other than all about the art of making art with Sunday in the Park with George. Amazing. Which is a lot of fun. That was a really great episode. So go on over, check that one out. Maybe that'll be a pro shot we will review on the Cup at some point, because that is a very iconic piece of musical theater, is those 80s pro shots of Into the Woods and Sunday in the Park. So yeah, lovely. So there we go. But yeah, follow me at Mackenzie Horner on all social media platforms. And what about you, Jill? Wherever you'll follow you and all your fun antics that you're up to these days.
Yeah, so people can find and follow me in my artist Instagram account, Jillian.Robinson96. I post some covers of me doing some songs. I've had the wonderful honor of singing some music from Tommy Rhodes, a new musical that I did up in spring of 2024. So there's some videos of that. And I've got some other cool opportunities down the line. So just keep your eyes peeled there and follow my journey if you'd like. Yeah. And then, as always, folks, if you are watching this or listening to this, we are Cup of Hemlock Theatre. We love doing these reviews for
Mhm.
you and interviews and all the other good stuff. So find and follow us
Yeah,
on
and reach
YouTube.
out to us if you want us to come see your show and talk about your show.
Definitely. So we're on YouTube. We are on our socials are COH Theater. We
Mhm.
are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
We've got
said,
some
Jill. Well said.
wonderful footage coming down the line to round us
Yes.
out of 2024. So
Yep.
we will raise our glass and cheers
To some pure imagination.
to some pure imagination.
There we go.
Bye, folks. See you next time.
Bye.